Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, your guide to motorsports sponsorship. Here's your host, Josh Weesey.
Welcome to the Sponsored Rider Club podcast, which is powered by AMSOIL. My name is Josh Weesey. I'm your host, and for the first time in 127 episodes, I'm coming at you solo. I've been actually wanting to do this for a long time, and I've just never quite gotten up the guts to do it. This is going to be a show, just me and you. I got a lot of things on my mind. If this goes well, I might do it more often. I've learned so much over the past 2 years doing this show, and I just want to present information to you in a little bit different way. Don't worry, the interviews are going to continue to come. I'm not going to stop bringing amazing people on the show. But I really wanted to take this opportunity to just talk to you a little bit. But next, I need to tell you about AMSOIL. We have teamed up to make sure you have the right information to make good decisions about your sponsorship program. Doesn't matter if you are a jet ski racer, a UTV racer, backcountry snowmobiler, a trophy truck driver, a jeeper, doesn't matter. You're welcome here, and we hope that you will learn something from these shows. Now, AMSOIL also hopes that you will get to experience their products. I've been using their products for years now, and I would not have brought them on as the title sponsor for the show if I didn't fully believe in their products. So check those things out. They've got gun lubricants. They've got chain case oils. They've got all sorts of different motor oils. You name it, they produce it. So check them out. And I also want to tell you about some of our other partners, people who have been sponsoring this show and helping us for a long time now. SolderWeld, they produce game-changing metal bonding technology. TopThePodium.com, they're experts in motorsports sponsorship. Bold Racing, they're a family race team and GSP XCV axle specialist. Neverlift Racing, they create comfortable, race-inspired apparel. Crash Act Industries, they provide human protection and extreme racing products. I also want to shout out some of our other partners, including MBRP, HMK USA, Studboy Traction, and of course, GSP XTV. Now, this show, like I said, is a lot different from any ones we've done in the past, but the focus remains the same. If you like it, if you are getting value, I want to hear it. Please either shoot me a message at josh@sponsoredriderclubpodcast.com or head over to iTunes and leave a rating and review. And if you have friends, family, colleagues that you think would get value from the show, let them know about it, because without you downloading, without you listening, and without you sharing, the show will no longer be able to exist. So we need your support, as you have always given it to us. It is more important now than ever. Without further ado, though, let's get into the actual topic of the show, which is, what can spaghetti teach us about sponsorship? That's right. Spaghetti. I know this is a little different. I told you it is going to be different today, but trust me, it's going to be good. All right, so here's the deal. I was reading this audiobook the other day, and this guy was blabbering on about all these different metaphors, and he brought up one about spaghetti. And I won't get into the details, but I was like, this is kind of interesting. Like, I would have never thought about spaghetti as being something that I would care about other than eating, but definitely not something where I thought that I would actually learn about it to the point where it led to some sort of like self-development. So if you don't know me already, I'm a big self-development person. I'm always listening to audiobooks, always listening to podcasts. And if it doesn't add value, if it doesn't help me learn and grow as a person, then I'm probably not paying attention to it. But in this case, this guy was talking about spaghetti, and I felt like I was learning and growing. And then, for some reason, I got this weird idea where I was like, I am going to now bring this to my audience with my own spin on it. All right, so spaghetti again. What can spaghetti teach us about sponsorship? Now, first, I want you to close your eyes unless you're driving. Do not close your eyes if you're driving. But if you're not, close your eyes and just picture your favorite plate of spaghetti. All right, now what does it make you think of? Tasty, delicious. Maybe it seems kind of simple, like, oh yeah, it's just spaghetti. You just mix up some noodles and whatever thing. But I want you to really think about what's the favorite one. There's probably a story behind it. There's probably something that makes that spaghetti special to you? Now, I'll tell you what, a lot of times when I ask people about spaghetti, it's like their grandmother's recipe or something like that that makes it truly special. And there's usually some sort of, complex story that made this recipe get into their hands. It was handwritten on this like napkin 50 years ago, and now it's been translated in this perfect spaghetti. But in the end, right, it's spaghetti. And the best thing though about this, like if you ask, I don't know, 100 people, and I didn't do this, but let's say if you ask 100 people about what their favorite spaghetti is, probably none of them is going to say the same thing. Like most likely they're not going to say, oh, I like ragu spaghetti with, the regular old noodles. No, they're going to have something very specific that they think about when they think of their favorite spaghetti. All right. And again, going back to that, there's a story behind it. All right. So you got this special spaghetti in your mind. You know that there's some story behind it. Your grandmother came up with this recipe, wrote it down on a napkin, and now you have it, or now one of your loved ones had it, and they're preparing it for you. There's just an emotional reaction to this spaghetti that makes it stick with you. Now, take that spaghetti, okay? Set it aside for a minute. Now I want you to think of the most expensive spaghetti that you've ever been presented, whether it's at the fanciest possible restaurant. I got one in my mind too. And which one was better? Was it, your grandmother's secret recipe, or was it this super fancy spaghetti from like this way overpriced venue? Most likely it's the special recipe, right? But they're both amazing. Especially, let's go back to the super fancy one. The person who was first putting that recipe down probably had a story behind it. Maybe it was their grandmother's super secret recipe that they decided to incorporate into their business model. You never know. But what you do know is the one that you truly connect with has a story behind it. All right, and that's where I'm going to start making some connections to what spaghetti can teach us about sponsorship. Right before that, though, I want to take a minute to thank the sponsors for this podcast. Family Race Team. Those are the first words that come to mind when I think of Bold Racing. And the next one is actually axles. Bold Racing is a premier distributor of GSP XTV axles. And if that wasn't cool enough, they just came out with an entirely new axle called the Revolution axle. It is a hollow tube axle. It's really cool. If you head over to their website, gspxtv.com, or you can find out more at boldracingltd.com, you can find out how this new axle technology works. So they are saying to view this as a fuse for your drivetrain. So the hollow tube CV axle twist technology actually increases the strength and reliability of the axle, and it also reduces stress on the drivetrain. Plus, honestly, it's super cool looking, and if people know me, they know that I really like cool looking stuff. So they come in this really cool gold color. Check it out. It's absolutely revolutionary. 2 questions I get continuously about this show and about sponsorship is, do I need my own website and do I need a resume? The answer is, in my opinion, yes to both, and that's why we partner with TopThePodium.com. Now, if you want to see an example of what a professional website and what a professional resume looks like, you got to check out TopThePodium.com. They did my website. The Sponsored Rider Club podcast website is sponsoredriderclubpodcast.com. That was created by Jeff Vanistal of TopThePodium.com. I think it's awesome. I get a lot of good feedback about it. And there's a number of other websites out there that Jeff has produced that are just phenomenal. So I think it's important in this world of social media where you have control of your content. That's what a website does. It gives you full control. We don't know what Facebook's going to do sometimes. We don't know what Instagram's going to do. We don't know what Twitter's going to do. So if we don't have that central location to direct people and house our content, there is some risk that we incur. So I strongly recommend getting a website, talking to TopThePodium.com. And then The resume, again, is massive, and if you want to stand out, get it done professionally. And honestly, it is one of the best ways to step up your game and present yourself in the best way possible.
What's up, everyone? This is Mike Pasquarella, founder of Desert Vets Racing. When the team goes racing, we always have our SolderWeld products with us. Keeping the cars in the fight is our number one concern. With SolderWeld, we can do that. SolderWeld is a leading company in the U.S. for aluminum repair. They specialize in radiator repair on the fly. If you're stuck in the middle of the trail or a race with a hole in your radiator, oil pan, or canister, or even an aluminum line, you can fix it right then and there in a matter of minutes with their AMSOIL aluminum repair rods and flux. It's the only complete and lasting fix in the off-road community. SolderWeld's new UTV off-road kits fit in every ride and are easy to access on the fly.
SolderWeld continues to make a huge positive impact on this industry. So I really encourage you, get in there now. Go to solderweld.us, check out their products, because this stuff is changing the game. Safety is our overriding priority. I hear it all the time, but I have to ask myself, is it though? Is that the first thing we think of? Is that the first thing you think of? Over the past couple of years, we've seen the performance of production UTVs increase, somewhere around 350%. That means these machines give us a lot more opportunity to have fun and win races, but it also, unfortunately, gives us new opportunities to crash. And that's why we have partnered with Crash Addict Industries. The owner, Travis Pointer, became very accustomed to crashing early in his career. He saw it as inevitable, and he set out to make the process safer. With a passion for racing, welding, and engineering, Crash Addict Industries now produces full cage and other protection systems intentionally designed to protect you during an accident on the track. They also offer a line of human protection products through their vendors. Do this for me at this point. If you're racing with a stock cage right now, please go check out CrashAddict.com and at least just see what they have to offer. Even if you choose to go with a different company, please make safety your overriding priority. Look, I'm sorry, but I gotta admit something. I like to look cool. I like to wear high quality clothing. I like it to be comfortable, and I also like it to portray the values that I also hold true to myself. That's why I like Neverlift Racing. So they were founded in 2013, and they are all about high quality, comfort, and looking cool. So, like I said before, exactly what I'm looking for out of clothing. Admittedly, my favorite shirt of all time is the Neverlift Racing silver badge t-shirt. Like, I wear this thing probably too often because way too many pictures of me on social media are wearing this shirt. Either way, they have a ton more out there. So go get your shirt, your hoodie, your hat, and actually your socks. Probably one of the most comfortable pair of socks I've ever owned too. And they got pretty cool things where it says never on one side, lift on the other. Really cool stuff. Get your apparel. Wear something that supports your values. Live fast, drive hard, Neverlift Racing. All right, so we've already got the intro out of the way here. We're talking about what spaghetti can teach us about sponsorship. Now, I want you to keep that thought in your mind about the genuineness and the story behind spaghetti and why that one is more important to you. You know, you connect with that spaghetti on a personal level. And from a sponsorship standpoint, we talk about this on the show all the time, but I just want to hammer it home in this episode that you need to make your program that special spaghetti. There are so many different ingredients that go into it. There's so much love, there's so much thought, there's so much time. All of it is based off of your story, and that is what makes it unique. That is what makes it genuine. Now, there's a ton of people out there who have their own story. They've got their own spaghetti. They've got their own special sauce. But you are the one that makes your story unique. And you're the one that makes your spaghetti the one that everybody else talks about later. And again, there's a couple of things that really go into that. And I'm just going to hammer this piece home again, your story. If you've noticed over the past 100 and some odd episodes that I've produced, I start with the person's story. And that is the thing that is most interesting when you go back and listen to these shows, because you find out that everybody has their own path, everybody has their own way of doing things, and when you tell that story, you create something that the audience becomes invested in, honestly. They can put themselves in the guest's shoes and see how they've learned things through the years and see how it's ultimately led them to where they're at today. And that's how spaghetti is done too, right? Even the ragouts and even the Pregos and even the ones that you could buy off the shelf, there's still that story behind it. You ask the owner, or the founder, more about that spaghetti, and it's going to be a lot more of a personal experience. So if you can tell your story, you can get people to understand the secret sauce behind who you are and what your brand is composed of. That's step one, telling that story. And just to build off of the whole storytelling principle here, you got to think about variables. Now, spaghetti has tons of variables. You've got the type of noodles you use, the sauce, the vegetables, how fresh your ingredients are, maybe unique flavors that you put in, cook time, spices, all of these things. Now, I'm not even a chef, but I just know that there's so many different variables that go into these things. It's a little bit unreal when you stop and think about it all. Now, let's look at a sponsorship program. You have your own personal brand, which is built off of your story, your lifetime. No one else can recreate that exactly the same way. You've got maybe other brands you've worked with in the past. You've got your style or your sport, whether it's Jeeps or UTVs or ATVs or dirt bikes or snowmobiles, whatever it is, that's your own personal spin. You've got what type of social media platform that you use and which ones that you're good at and which ones that you utilize the most. So it's YouTube or Twitter, or is it Instagram or Facebook? Do you do live videos? Do you do how-to videos? Do you do your own podcasts? All of these variables, and I can go on and on and on. All of these variables make up your personal brand, and that is what you ultimately are selling to your sponsors. So if you go back to this restaurant scenario with someone who's got their famous grandmother's recipe that they are now marketing and selling to others, all these variables play into that, and it is now time to deliver that package to the audience. So if it's, you're personally producing the spaghetti and you want to live up to your grandmother's name, great. You've got to put now the effort into that to make sure that everything is done the way that you had wanted it to do. That means you've got a plan. That means you've got a strategy and you're executing towards it. The same goes for your sponsorship program. You will notice that every successful person that has ever been on the show has some sort of strategy behind how they do their social media, how they do goal setting, and especially if you're listening to this at the end of 2018, I'm recording this, in December of 2018. This is like goal setting season for the following year. So if you set your goals and then you execute to those goals, that is emulating exactly what the successful people on this show do. And I fully support that. So if you stuck with me this long, you are probably waiting for the point. And the point of this is that you need to think of yourself and your brand as what it is. It's unique. It is a special mixture of things that nobody is going to fully understand unless you let them in and you show them. And whether it's a sponsor or someone listening to a podcast or someone looking at an Instagram post or someone at a race watching you do your thing, you have to show your unique brand. And I don't know how else to convey this other than describing it as the spaghetti. So next time you go to the race, next time you pick out a wrap for your sled or for your ride, think about the spaghetti. Think about the story behind you, your brand, your sponsor's brand, and what you want to convey, and then execute on it. All right? Make sure that it is the best spaghetti ever so that nobody will forget it. Okay, well, that's all I'm going to give you on the whole spaghetti deal. I hope that you are getting value out of these shows. Please head over to iTunes, leave a rating and review, and then follow us on social media. So we are on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, but Facebook is where we do our live shows. So we just had Jared Heshka on of MBRP, and he crushed it, but it was the most technical difficulties I've ever experienced, and I say that a decent amount, but this was truly the worst. But we figured it out, so you can head over there and listen to it. I also published that as episode 126, the audio-only version, if you want to check it out. Now, I also want to shout out some of our partners. We have AMSOIL, SolderWeld, Bold Racing, Neverlift Racing, Crash Addict Industries, and then also I want to shout out some of our other partners, including MBRP, HMK USA, Studboy Traction, and GSP XTV. I look forward to serving you again next week. Until then, have fun and ride safe.